Hi. This is me during Emily's challenge about people being treated differently because of their age. And coincidentally, I am writing a novel in which this theme is prevalent. And I'm going to read the first page or so of it because it comes into play almost immediately. So let's have a go. It's called Sleepers, by the way, and I might possibly record more of it for YouTube. I don't know. If you like it, tell me, and I will. So here we go. This must be where the sleepers are kept, said Thea, as they carefully opened the great glass doors. They entered a vast glass dome, larger by far than their wildest imaginings. The dome was filled by a great lake in the centre, a lake of the deepest and darkest sort. Its surface was smooth and still, so there was no telling what lay in its watery depths. There was just enough room on either side for a series of paths along the wall, for there lay something of interest. On every section of the wall was an equally transparent shelf, length enough for the tallest of humans. On the majority of the shelves lay a great ice coffin, glistening in the dying embers of the sun. The coffins were magnificently sculpted and perfectly shaped. The patterns of ice were clear as day, and they were oddly fascinating, twisting and turning white lines within the heart of the ice. Inside the coffins lay human bodies, asleep or dead. "This is like a morgue," said Gwen, the youngest. "They're not dead," Thea snapped. "They're sleepers." Gwen stared into the coffin which lay nearest. She could just make out a human form within, still and paler than the ice. When she looked closer, she could see the steady rise and fall of the chest, but it was remarkably infrequent. If this person was indeed asleep, it was a sleep from which they would gain no rest. She stared into the lake, but there was nothing there to see, just plain black stillness. "What are sleepers, anyway?" asked Francis, the middle child. He too was examining the coffin with great interest. "Well, the technical name for them is dreamers," began Thea importantly. "That's because they're an extreme type of telepath who can predict the future in their dreams." "Is that how they know?" asked Gwen with interest. "That's how the readers know everything," exclaimed Thea. They chose a path of the great old stone that led them all the way around the other side of the lake. It was deathly cold in the dome, and Gwen started to shiver. Francis snorted at her and continued on, pretending that he wasn't just as cold as she was. While they walked, they continued to stare into the coffins they passed. The sleepers all looked restless in their dreams, as if they were about to wake up screaming and crying for help. There was something keeping them there, though, thought Gwen. There was someone making sure they could never ever wake. They had to stay in the nightmare of the future forever. She'd never liked the readers much, but that she now realized their cruelty. The readers kept these people asleep to do their bidding, made them predict the future, the outcome of all their plans, that they might change them accordingly. It was by this method that they all seemed to win. Gwen couldn't bear it. The still, pale bodies in their icy prisons, then further imprisoned within their own thoughts and visions. There must have been thousands of sleepers, all lined up upon the individual shelves. One for every reader, she reasoned, but there were not vast numbers of them. Thea came to a sudden stop, causing Francis and Gwen almost to bump into her. They stared at their sister, for she had gone almost as pale as the sleepers themselves and was staring, horror-struck, at something in front of her. It was an ice coffin, just like all the others around the room, its frosty patterns intricate and pale. Gwen peered inside. She saw that it was a girl, pale as all the others in her icy prison. This sleeper had long, dark and wavy hair around her shoulders, and was so small and thin the coffin seemed like a giant's with her inside. Her face was pointed and determined, and it was oddly familiar. Gwen gasped as she recognized their long-lost sibling, Jocelyn, who had been reported missing and soon dead many years ago. Gwen thought Francis take her hand, but chose not to comment. She was scared too. Despite what Thea had said, she couldn't shake off the feeling that these were corpses and not merely asleep. Besides which, this was hardly a desirable fate. She didn't know if she would rather her sister dead than to be trapped into helping the readers. A thought occurred to her. She wasn't always that skinny, was she? How did they eat? She asked. She must have lost weight before this then, said Thea. The sleepers are kept in a state of permanent and absolute homeostasis. What does that mean? said Gwen. It means all their bodily functions are contained and kept consistent, explained Frances importantly. Gwen looked at Thea to see if he was right, but she had returned to staring at their sister's coffin with that dead look on her face again. Thea was the eldest at 17, and seeing her self-assured, intelligent big sister act this way worried her. She was the younger one, the one who was allowed to be frightened. Thea couldn't break down, the others depended on her. Gwen let out a sob, and she felt Frances' hand in hers twitch. She wanted to turn and hug him, but she knew that he would push her away like he always did. He didn't like his little sister pestering him all the time. She felt so lonely since Jocelyn went missing, as her other sister had been closer to her own age and hadn't minded playing with her sometimes. She felt a wave of sadness as she remembered the games they used to play together and the fun they had had. Jocelyn had been 10 when they last saw her, 3 years ago, and now Gwen was older, she had previously felt some strange responsibility to take her place. But she could never be like Jocelyn. Jocelyn was quiet, charming and courteous. Gwen was chatty, argumentative and cheerful. She couldn't imagine being like her sister one little bit. "Should we try waking her up?" suggested Frances tentatively. "No," exclaimed Thea incredulously. "If we try and open the coffin, the spell of homeostasis will be lifted with immediate effect. All her body will start up at the same time, and she will die a very painful death." "That's awful," cried Gwen. "Is that to make sure she can't be rescued?" "Yes, that's part of it. Although even if that wasn't the case, a sleeper is almost impossible to wake. It would require a great deal of magic, which we do not have," said Thea, getting closer to tears of every word. "What about the prophecy, though?" asked Frances desperately. And I'm going to stop it there, because it sort of digresses from the theme there. But yeah, I hope you liked it. Let me know. And if I wasn't right, it's for the